we have to know everything that we purchase is going to be wasted one day. So buying is one thing. How are we using it until its end before we put it to waste is very, very important, because if we look at our land, how huge mountains of landfills we have, it's crazy. People just buy clothes because of trend and stuff, and they just throw it away, and the landfill is crazy, and even that damages people and planet, animals. Like, it's a cycle.
Sometimes in our own busy lives, we forget to take care of our own health. We have become accustomed to constantly running to work, finding comforts, and trying to achieve our goals. But have we ever thought about the climate, let alone the small things we can do each day? Reducing our carbon footprint is crucial to sustaining life on Earth and is imperative for everyone to find an eco-friendly way of living to fight this global issue.
So today's topic is about reducing our carbon footprint. And to talk more about that, we have our special guest today, Navedthra. She's an environmentalist, loves to explore new places, preaches self-care. Currently, she's teaching autistic kids. Welcome, Navedthra.
Hello.
How's it going?
Very good.
Awesome. Let's talk about the science of our carbon footprint. What is a general explanation of a carbon footprint, and what do you think are the primary causes of this?
Okay, so I think what basically carbon footprint is basically it's basically the amount of greenhouse gases that human beings really, not just human beings, but just life on Earth release due to our actions, and it comes off in different ways, like different kind of natural gases, our food habits, our traveling habits, like things that we buy. All of these are like the chunks of it. But if we go into each one of them individually, they have like a long chain of like we can actually really segregate them and see like how we as humans on Earth can actually reduce our personal impact in the choices we make on a daily basis. Since we use everything, we use clothes, we eat, we travel, we do all those stuff. So yeah, it's like a little general, but yeah, that's more on what are the things that we can work on and the impact we have on Earth.
Yeah. So Navedthra, do you believe that reducing our carbon footprint is like often overlooked, and what does it mean to you?
Yes, it's definitely overlooked, and I think I think it's because we don't understand the importance of a healthy environment. Because if there's no healthy environment, there's no us, right? In the sense of like, I think it's actually very obvious now around the world, the diseases, and no matter which way it's coming, it's there, and it's one of the major reason is definitely because of how our environment is extremely unhealthy, or I would say we have brought it to such a way, and it's affecting us. And sorry, what was the second question?
Oh, I'm just asking, like, what does it mean to you?
Oh, what does it mean to me?
Yeah.
I think it's very, very saddening, and it's very unfortunate that we live here and we use the resources that the planet has given, because without it we can't actually live. But I think we don't take enough time to actually think about, like, yes, we can do everything, we can use everything, we can have all the fun, but why not we also just take a moment to see like the choices we make, because everything is available in a much better alternative now, which is very good. So I think in this time when there's better alternatives and things are actually in quite bad shape in the globe when it comes to our environment and climate, we can always make that little change in everything that we do.
Got it. Yeah, I was just curious because obviously, like, a lot of people, like the mass crowd, right? They're always constantly running to work, and uh, by the time they even realize, like, what they've been doing, or like what are the ways of life of they're practicing, they miss out on the fact that they could have done so much, right? And so I was just curious about that.
So Navedthra, how can we start investing time and money from all of us? Do you think we need to reduce our transportation and gasoline cars, or like how do we go about public transportation, or a lot of the ways that we reduce the carbon footprint?
Right. So okay, so at this very moment, like around the globe, like, so recently there was like this big global meeting that happened for our climate, globally. And yeah, so basically there's like a lot of different resources and theories that's telling that we have somehow reached our tipping point, which means that no matter what we do now as an individual or organizations of the world, we will not be able to actually reverse our damages. So some sources are saying that, which means no matter what we do, there's no point. The world is just going to go through destruction in order to revive again. But of course, there's other resources that's also telling that we still have time, but it's not long, and like probably like 5 to 10 years. And that too, the actions that we have to take, if it's just going to be very individual based at this moment, it's going to be very unrealistic actually, because we are so many people on earth, and it's only like 5 to 10 years, and there's no more children coming in, so it's just not going to work. So to make like a really big impact, it has to come from like a big political parties and our governments to actually like really impose change, so that when they impose change, we will somehow have to follow, which is not really happening in many countries. Yeah, probably, I don't know, they don't see the importance, or they don't see where it's going. I'm not too sure about that. But coming back to individual changes, I wouldn't say that we necessarily need to fork out extra money and this and that, but it's just to make different choices. Like, okay, you spoke about transportation, so of course it's best that we go with public transportations. I mean, all of this still it still emit like the greenhouse gas and all those things. It still does, but the volume of it is different depending on which vehicle we are using. So planes have the highest, so which means if we travel to different countries, it actually gives out a lot of carbon footprints. So lesser definitely would be like walking, cycling. This would be the best, but I understand we can't actually do that on a daily basis. So yeah, like maybe public transport, like carpool and all these things. So the thing is, like, it's to be sustainable, because there's so many things we actually can't do. We can't stop right away, because we need to get to work, we need to go to places and stuff like that. So it's not about stopping everything. It's really about making the better choice when we can, right? So public transport is definitely one thing. But there's like other things we can do, like okay, our food. Our food. I'm not sure how many people like even know this. Like, our food plays like a really big part in the whole releasing carbon footprint. I mean, it's a long chain. It doesn't just harm the environment. So it harms the environment. It definitely has a lot of animal cruelty behind it. That's also like a lot of energy wasted behind. Is a lot of resources, energies of what else? Clearance of lands. Our forest is going away because of the choices of our food. So coming to food, right? Food plays a big part because we all eat every day, like a lot of food, right? So I personally would say that food, clothes, shopping habits, and all these things are on our daily. It's like our daily requirements. So these are the things that we definitely can make changes. So like example, like switching to like a plant-based diet or vegan, or at least reducing the meat consumption, because like so it's actually a chain how when we consume meat, depending on which animal people eat. Sorry, we're not supposed to eat animals, but yeah. So which animals people eat, depending on that animal, different volume of resources are being wasted. So it's like beef is the highest, because to produce the meat, the beef, a lot of like gallons of water is actually wasted just for washing and the whole process of it, and the energy. And another sad part is like we have this whole world hunger thing that's going on, and very unfortunately it comes back to our eating habits, because we are so privileged to have food, but it's because of a lot of our eating habits. Somewhere other children are actually suffering. It's because how it happens. Like I'll just show like a simple chain. It's basically like when we consume animals, and people who breed the animals breed, so they are not naturally even growing, so they are breeding these animals. So which means when we breed, it's going to be in large volume, and for that we need land, right? So our forests will be cut down, like, and it's large number forests, like large number forests will be cut down, so that people can breed the animals. So one is for breeding, and then the another part of forest will be cut down, probably to build the I don't know, the manufacturing stuff, where they slaughter, where they wash, where they do all those stuff, and then another space to process them. So just think about how much of space is that, because it's not going to be like 10 or 100 cows or chickens or whatever. It's going to be in large numbers. So yeah, so that is more of like, yes, so I spoke about the forest. So when we clear the forest for breeding, where are all these people who, not these indigenous people, or people who live off forests? So where are they going to go, right? So it actually leads, so a lot of places, if you go back to history, a lot of places that suffers from world hunger and all at the moment was not like that back then, until the meat consumption of the world started increasing. So that's very, very unfortunate. So yeah, so food is one thing, and also when we breed animals at the same place like that, a lot of methane gases are actually being released, high number, which is very damaging for us. Yeah, so that's more on food, but yeah, there's like other things as well.
So thank you for that explanation. And so a follow-up question on that. When you say like, okay, there's small things that we could do, like taking public transportation, um, or even the animal consumption and all that kind of all those kind of things, right? Do you think that the government has, or in general, like society has enough incentives for people to change? Like example, if you go buy an electric car, they're going to give you a discount or a tax reduction um, on for you. And so, do you think that's enough, or do you think that the government should promote more incentives for people to like get more attracted to being more eco-friendly?
Yes, definitely. But again, I think that it's unfair for every community, because not everyone has that capability, whether it's fine, especially financially, right? So, so that's why I said that it's not like we have to do everything, but we have to do what we need to do what we can do. So right, like buying a car is a big thing, and definitely not everyone have that kind of finances to just think of like, okay, I want to impact the environment in a much positive manner, so I'm going to switch to a car. So it doesn't really work like that for everyone. So because car is like a property that people get probably a few years once, but it always comes back to the things that we do daily, right? Like I said, food, clothes that we wear, where we buying, where we buying our resources from, so all of these things are something that actually every one of us can make a difference, because every time when we go out, when we want to buy something, there's always choices. So what are we getting, and where we are investing our money into, and what are we consuming, what are we wearing, and all those things makes a difference. So if people can go big, that's great, if they have that capability. But if you can't, that's fine, because there's other stuff which is like, which is like, there's so many things that we can do actually. So we don't have to target in one thing, but everything, whatever we can.
Makes sense.
You're correct about certain people can't definitely afford costly cars. It's getting increasing with electric cars for sure. But the countries that are producing their higher carbon footprint are the richer countries than poor countries. So it does make sense, the rich countries who can afford these electric cars to be shifting that way. And I got to give a shout out to Henry Fisker. They released a new car that's, their model name is Ocean, and it's known for its sustainability. They have solar roof on top, and everything inside is vegan material, and all the carbon fiber materials are all recycled from water bottles. So I think that's a good thing that they're doing, and I feel like if they mass market it, I think it's nice, because a lot of the cars now are using leather. So I think it's a great shift, and it takes mass movement of people kind of going that way. So do you think that all of us need to spend a certain amount of time on it? What are the activities that we can create awareness, if you will?
Okay, so I really like the point you brought. You said that the wealthier countries or people are getting richer, and the poorer countries, yeah. Actually, if you really look again, it all comes back from history. Okay, when we really look back, whether it's food or it's all this invading countries and colonization. So if you really look at it, right, in like everything is actually connected, even though it seems like, okay, maybe this part is just about slavery, this part is just about this, and this part is just about rich and poor. It doesn't work like that. Actually, when we really look back into the history, everything is connected. But I guess like people with power were just very smart enough to put it into a different way so that we don't exactly know what's going on. So the wealthy countries are actually in a way feeding off the poor countries, and that's why we see poor countries getting poorer, and people in those countries are really really suffering. It's not because they don't know how to sustain themselves. It's because if you really look back at histories of these countries, these people knew better on how to sustain themselves, on how to make food for themselves, on just what to do without giving much damage to the environment. It's when this colonization, this industrial revolution, and this when this invading and all of these things happen, it's when the West, West has done a lot of damage to the world. Like if you really look back in the history, they have pretty much damaged a lot of ancient stuff and a lot of environmental things. It's out there. It's out there. They have actually damaged everything and kind of made these poor countries that we know in debt to them like forever until today. So that is why we see them suffering. But it was not like that back then, right? So so that's one thing. And you were talking about the cars. I don't know so much about cars, but that's really a very good initiative. I do see big companies doing really cool stuff like that, whether it's cars and bags and a lot of things that people use, on a bigger scale, which is really good. You asking about awareness. How do we create awareness? Like as an individual, you mean? Yeah, I think it comes back to our habits, because I think to be realistic, not every one of us can just afford big stuff. So, and I appreciate people creating these kind of things. And can I buy it right now? No, I can't. So So the question is, am I just going to sit here and complain that I can't get that, so I can't do anything for the environment? Or am I going to just do everything I can in my capability? Because we all can, right? So that is why I keep coming back to the basic things, right? Say the clothes we wear. How many of us think where it's coming from, who's making our clothes? Before we get it, do we even think like if we really need the clothing, or we just buy it because we really like it? How many times do we wear them? What do we do after we wear them a couple of times? Do we throw it away? Do we really use until it can't be used, and then probably we really reuse it until like it can't be used anymore? Probably it becomes like a cloth that you use to wipe whatever you wipe, and then we throw. So how are we using everything that we have, and what are our buying habits? So it boils down to all of these things, because nobody goes on a daily basis of thinking of buying big stuff, right? It always comes back to the small things. So so if you ask me how we as an individual can create awareness, is definitely by living it. But I would be honest, it's easy for me because I think I know my priority. Like, I love this planet, and I'm like so damn sure without it I can't survive, right? And I care everyone on the planet, not just humans, animals, everything. So for me, it's like it's my commitment and my responsibility as a life here to do whatever I can, right? So maybe people around me don't like it, maybe they don't care, whatever. But like, as long as I'm not harming someone or something, then I would keep doing what I do. So I think that's the best way to actually create awareness, because not everyone is willing to listen to these things. It's like, because they know it needs to be done, but it's just not convenient to do it, right? So yeah. Mm.
Yeah, it's a sacrifice for a greater good. I love
No,
the
I'm
quote.
not sacrificing. No, it's a responsibility. So that it's a perspective on how we look at it. It's not a sacrifice, because we have been living like this for centuries. So now that we make a change, it seems like a sacrifice. But if we really look back at how our ancestors lived, they actually lived like this, and it was not a sacrifice. It's because they understood the relationship they had with environment. They know that, like, for us to be here, we definitely need resources. Without that, we can't sustain. But we take as we need. But what happened now, not now, as in like along the way, is that we have exploited for our greed than our need. So I will not even, no, it's not a sacrifice, it's a responsibility. Because if we want to, when we leave, we need to leave a better world for our children, right? I mean, it's pretty much damaged now. So it's a responsibility.
Yeah. Well said. I love the clothing example. So I know you know about the Western culture and the culture going on over there. So what other things, from the point we wake up to when we sleep, what other habits do you see that can be changed?
Okay. So I'll just talk about myself, like, if that's the thing. Okay, so and nothing much. Like, you just wake up and normal. Like, what do? We take shower. Of course, like, I think basic things like, take don't shower for really long because you're wasting water and stuff like that. But I think we all enjoy a good long shower once in a while, right? So so like, probably like reducing our water. These are very basic things. Reducing our water usage, our just switch off the current when we don't use it.
Most people do cold shower just so they're in and out quickly. So that might help.
That's good. Just like, and I'm done. So I mean, if people who live like off the city areas, if you have river and beach around you, that's going to be amazing. Just jump into there, just clean yourself, and just come back, right? So that's that. And then it comes to our food. So definitely take food that's more environmentally friendly. So I don't take meat, or I don't take dairy products. So my food choices are definitely one thing that I always make sure that I eat proper food that's healthy for me and also healthy for the environment and for the animals and those stuff. And say if like I'm heading out, I always make sure I bring 1 cup, 1 Tupperware or 2 Tupperwares, how many Tupperwares I want, and a fork and a spoon. Yeah, and like probably like just 2 to 3 bags, like folded bags. So this is so that I can reduce my plastic usage, because plastic is terrible for the environment. So I wouldn't say I don't use plastic at all, but I don't purchase them. So it's like if I'm doing some kind of grocery shopping or whatever, I always look for foods that's not packed, so I don't have to bring that extra plastic bag. But some food, it kind of will be packed only in plastic. So I'll search for the places that doesn't have, and if those things has to be packed in a plastic, then that's the plastic usage usually that I take. Because so this is the thing, I have no choice, right? So this is where we need to make our choices. So like to bring a bag, it's not like so difficult. I know we forget, but we can make it into a habit, like probably always keeping a few bags in the car. I mean, this is something like vital. I don't forget usually. If I forget, I just don't buy unless I really need to. Yeah. So so that's more of like plastic usage, and so basically that's what I do. So I don't bring back more things that's unnecessary, because we have to understand, when we bring back just for one purpose, we are going to put it to waste. And we have to be very we have to know everything that we purchase is going to be wasted one day. So buying is one thing. How are we using it until its end before we put it to waste is very, very important. Because if we look at our land, how huge mountains of landfills we have, it's crazy. People just buy clothes because of trend and stuff, and they just throw it away, and the landfill is crazy, and even that damages people and planet, animals. Like, it's a cycle, right? So yeah, so basically everything we consume, we just need to like ask ourselves, do I really need this? Or if I want this, is there like a better option, right? So yeah, I think I've not touched on clothes, but even clothes give out a lot of it's wasting a lot of our resources, because to make clothes we actually, there's dyes and this and that, so there's a lot of slavery behind, depending on brands, but almost every big brand's slavery is terrible. So so even if we want to buy clothes, it's always good to support like local businesses where people are putting their heart to actually make clothes for us, right? Because almost all the clothes we wear, the slavery is terrible behind. Like, even the big brands. Slavery is one thing. The amount of water is being wasted to make our clothes, and every other resources. So these are all things that we just have to be a little bit more conscious and see the bigger picture and not just ourselves. Then I think it wouldn't be so hard.
That was a great explanation. And I think to recap what you said, right, or the main point is, of course, we can't be completely like eco-friendly, but we can make changes to our daily activities, whether it be even, reducing animal consumption, or even like using a reusable water bottle, right? We can reduce so much plastic, because I notice we go out and we buy packs of water bottles, and out of convenience we use it. But then using a reusable like water bottle would be really helpful, and that's a small change that we can make. So definitely thank you for the explanation. And going to another question, right? Do you think like the Telugu community, or like the Telugu people, like, do we already practice certain things, or are we like kind of in the red zone? Like, are we doing things that are not eco-friendly?
So I think when it comes to our Telugu community, like, again, I would go back to the back, look at how our like ammamas, our tatas, our mamas, how they always lived, right? So most of like our ancestors, back then, definitely they were vegetarians, like in the beginnings I'm talking. And when all those influence came in, and we all started eating meat. So okay, putting that aside, yes, definitely we were living with the environment, right? Because I'm sure, like, in India, we know how people lived back then. I mean, things are not that great in India even now because people are like doing a lot of these kind of things, which is like against the environment. But India was one of the country which lived with the environment, right? Like you see when even now, like when you go to temples or certain places in India, see how they serve their food. It's actually from the real leaf. They just knew how to dry it and probably stitch it, and it looks perfect. The curry doesn't even flow down. That's so cool, right? So they had so much intelligence, and they just knew. So yeah, so they just knew how to use whatever they had around, whatever nature has provided them, to use it for their needs without creating more wastage. And it's like after we use, if I throw it back, it goes back to the soil and it nurtures the soil and it gives me back food. So that's how we, not us, but our ancestors have lived, right? But I think, yes, now Telugu community, like, I think we definitely are driven away from it. And even if like we are doing certain things, it's only more towards the cultural and traditional. It's like, oh, Amma says, this is how we're supposed to. We just do it, but we don't understand that these things came because we see a lot of things in the way of like tradition and culture. So we do it religiously, but not understanding that, okay, why this kind of stuff would have like why did our ancestors came up with this, like why we do, like my question is, do we even question these things? So I think when we question, we might not get answers, but at least we can start searching for it, and something might pop out. But yeah, so I would say that we are doing a lot of things just out of tradition, culture, because our parents asked us to do so, but not really because we know why we are doing. So we are definitely driven away from it because we are only doing it probably on certain, like, auspicious days. So how about every other day, right? Every other day we just don't care, and we just live like how we want to live, right? So yes. Yeah.
Especially during our festival, for example, Ganesh Chaturthi, people buy Ganeshas in India. Whoever thought to make Ganesha out of a clay and make it eco-friendly, because you do have to um, leave leave it in water, and that goes somewhere else. So great for that. Whoever thought about it, and not many people are producing the same way. It's amazing. Um, and a lot of the states here are not banning, but like they're charging people who do use plastic bags, that prevent us from spending more to get what we want. So if you were given the power of Malaysian environmental protection agency, what policies would you put in?
Even in Malaysia, they charge for plastics.
Mm.
But honestly, I don't know how much is it working, to be honest, because people, like, it's 20 cents here, so I don't know how much is 20% in US dollars. But I still see a lot of people just take like bunch of plastic and just go. It's like 20 cents. Because 20 cents seems small, like for one plastic. But I think if we give a lot of 20 cents for each plastic, it does sum up to somewhere. But people have money, so 20 cents seems less.
So would you hike it to like $100 or 100 ringgits? Is that what
I think I can be very cool. So I don't know. I mean, it's definitely okay. What I would do, okay, probably I would maybe I would just hike up the price, because people don't listen. So I would do that. But I think apart from that, if I really have the power, then I guess plastic food, uh, like clothing, like these big things that we do on a daily basis. Definitely, I'll make this like big things, because yeah, these are big things. Like daily things are big things. It's the small things that's always creates the bigger impact, because we are doing it every day, right? So yes, I'll just hike up the prices. Probably, like
bad meat in the entire country?
oh, okay, that's the thing. I can't do that because when we it's a psychological thing. When I say no to you, you would want to do it because we're curious. We are humans, right? So it's not going to be easy, but I think it's going to be like safe. Like now governments, they still they still promote a lot of like even here in Malaysia, like they still promote a lot of food with meat and this meat and that meat and whatnot. And yeah, it looks nice and stuff, but nobody tells the damage behind it. Not just for environment, even for our health. Because first of all, the meat that people eat now is not even real meat. There's it's loaded with antibiotics. It's loaded with what kind of chemicals that they are injecting it into, and everything is just fake. So basically, the chicken that probably I'm eating or beef, whatever that people eat, it's not even real like how it used to be like back then. I mean, I'm not with it, but I'm just putting it out there in the sense of like health. If people ate chicken back then, at least it was okay, as in for health, I'm saying. But now, if they eat it, it's actually just damaging the whole body system because there's like so much, antibiotics in almost every animal that people consume, right? So I will definitely introduce like food related stuff in the sense of like what actually happens behind the farms, because a lot of people are more, people always care about themselves, and that's why we are here where we are today, because people care only about themselves. So then let's give them a picture on what they're putting their where they're putting their body to. Like, now if you eat this, these are the things that you are taking from this animal to your body, and probably like the damages it does to the body, to the environment, and then to the animals, to right. I think since human beings are like one of the species who really care about themselves so much, so then I would probably let them know how much damage they're doing to themselves. So maybe, out of like that thought, they might just reduce their meat first, right? Yeah, and to introduce, we have this food pyramid stuff and all. Yeah, so probably introduce that and give reasons behind, and not reasons, just put the real data out there. And I guess like from that, people will definitely start having better understanding, and of course introducing these things to children. This whole thing about milk gives us calcium is just a whole myth that our whole world has been going on believing until today, only because of millions of advertisements that was made, right? But in reality, a lot of people around the world are lactose intolerant, and but we have been drinking milk, right? And we just didn't know about it. But a lot of us are lactose intolerant. We cannot take lactose, but probably that's coming out with diseases and whatever. But I mean, it's projecting itself in different ways. But we all thought we can have milk, right? It's very less people who actually can tolerate milk because it's not meant for our body, right? So there's so much things that the media has done from back then till now, the advertising companies, I mean. Yes, so it's not going to be easy, because I think our minds are like, if I keep seeing the same thing every day, we will come subconsciously be programmed in certain way, like how we all are. And to break that and to learn and to know will be the best. So school will be the best place, because children are like our future, our after us. So I think putting it all out to children always know what's best. It's the adults who corrupt their mind, right? So yeah, put it out to them, and we do our best to give them a better place and let them be the leaders and take over the world. Yes. Yeah.
That's a good point you bring up between you're talking about the meat consumption, right? Like before it used to be real meat. Now, because of the population size or because of the demand for meat, they're doing a lot of different things that we don't know, and we're just corrupting ourselves and more than just the environment. So it's a good thing that you brought that up. And then last question here. So, well, when did your concern like start for protecting our environment? Was this something like someone just told you about it, or you had the self-realization? How did that start?
Mm. I don't really have an answer exactly for that, but I always knew that I never liked people throwing rubbish just everywhere. I never liked that. I used to get very angry, like back then, when I was younger. And then when anyone around me does that, probably I'll just say something out and probably take and throw it in the rubbish bin. So that was when I was very young. But of course, the time I didn't know so much about environment and stuff. Actually, I learned after being a vegan. So I turned to vegetarian when I knew about the whole animal cruelty thing. So like when I knew about it, okay, then I just like switched. Like that night, I told myself, okay, I'm not gonna have meat after this. I didn't. And then like I think few years, and then when I knew about dairy products, I think because Asians we are, or like when Telugu people, like dairy is not like a big thing in our culture, but it's there. It's something we have, right? Like cows and stuff like that. So like when I knew about what actually happens behind dairy industry, like it's just terrible. It's there on YouTube if you guys want to go and watch it. It's terrible. Yeah. So when I knew about dairy industry, so I switched overnight as well. I'm like, I'm not never going to have babies, so I switched. And then as I met more vegan friends and more vegan people in Malaysia, and actually that's when I learned about this whole environment thing, because my reason was because I was not okay with the cruelty, because life is just one. My life is not greater than like a cow's life or whatever, right? So as I started speaking to more people, then I knew that some people actually turn vegan not even because they don't care about the animals, but because they care about the environment, and that's why they turn vegan. And I was like, how cool is that? I never knew it was linked. So that's how I learned. That's how I learned. I spent a lot of time with this bunch of people. We talk about different stuff, like whether it's animals, health, environment, and it's every the thing is every topic is linked and every topic is big. So yeah, so actually from there I learned that it's all linked, and yeah, so probably then it was just a very instant thing. I just knew that it was important, and like I can do something. So yeah, that's when it started.
Seems like you transitioned from a non-vegetarian. How is it going with your family? And how's the interaction like? Have they changed? Have you tried to change them to vegan, or how are you so disciplined? I guess your why is strong. Um, so how's the journey been with your family turning vegan?
When I turned vegetarian, I didn't tell anyone. It was just a decision. I was somewhere, and then it was just a decision I took. Like, okay, I'm never going to take meat after this. So I didn't. And then, of course, like the next day, like say when mom cooked stuff and all, I just told like I'm not going to take. Then of course, like they were like, why? I was like, no, I don't want to take meat. So they were okay, but I think, of course, there were instances where they were like, anything but how will I like strong with the all these kind of things, and I'm like, ma, I'll be fine. Uh, yeah, so I was like, I'm fine, and then they were not opposing it, but I think again it's conditioning of the mind that meat lepote logic cannot sustain. It's a lot to do with conditioning of our mind. And but of course I knew why I was doing it, and yeah, I wouldn't just put it away because it's important. It's about another life, right? So, but yeah, there was not like a big hoo-ha about it, but they were like wondering. But then yeah, I'll just eat and stuff like that. And of course, there was a point where I think I took eggs for a while. That's because of my parents, and that time I was like still schooling. I was still schooling, and Mama would be like, no, at least take that. Because there were places that I went, like probably like they had nothing, and like nothing in the sense of like probably there was just no vegetables, also probably just like bubble soup, sambar, yeah, that's all. And so mom will be like, just take one, just take one. So I'll probably just take one. I was younger, right? But that was probably, I think it just lasted for 1 to 2 months because I knew it was still not okay. Egg is still alive, and I can't do that. So I was very stern with my thing. Like, so they never actually forced me or stuff like that until yeah, so it was going, so that was completely fine actually. And then once I turned a vegan, then of course, my mother, when Amma got to know about it, she was like, "Tinodo ite tinodo, ani yogi, ani yogi yogi tinodo," you know. So then of course, I showed her. I said, I told her why I am not consuming milk, because last time Amma used to buy like fresh milk, like fresh cow's milk, and she would boil once in a while. I would have some. I used to like it, like with a bit of sugar. I did have it, but of course when I knew about it, I was like, no, not for my pleasure. I would make another being suffer, right? So yeah, so I actually showed her things. I actually told her first why. I told her why, what happens, and stuff, and I even showed her videos, right? How cows are treated and handled with so much of disrespect, and like it's and it's female cows, right? And basically they're raped. It's just like, I mean, just put in human being, if what we do to women, if it's not okay, then it's just the same thing, right? Actually the same thing. If you actually go and see how they make the cow pregnant and stuff like that, nothing happens naturally. People actually do shove their hands inside the cow and put the sperm inside, make it pregnant, and so much of really terrible things happen, right? So I showed mom all of these things. I explained to her. I even brought the more of like like I think Indians, we have this whole thing with cow, like mother and stuff like that, right? So I brought that in because just for her to understand, like because back then the way we treated cows were like mothers, because we lived together. This could be our home, but cows lived with us, and there was so much respect, and we would never do that to our cows, right? I mean, that's the culture we came from, with respect every life. But now, being in that same Telugu people or whatever, we are there in that culture, but then we still do a lot of things in the name of culture and tradition, not knowing where it has ended up, right? So then we need to do a lot of rethinking. So I showed my mom, I explained to her all of these things. Of course, she doesn't, because I said, Ma, this is like the God that you pray to, the whatever that you pray to, and this is what's happening, and it's not okay. And she understood, but again, I think it's hard to take that thing away from your mind. I mean, there was a lot of fights between me and my mom, like a lot, because I used to get very upset and stuff like that. Trying to explain to her, and then she would say a lot of stuff. So yeah, and yeah, I think now they are fine. Now they don't say anything anymore. In fact, they probably, if they go somewhere, they see some oat milk, they just buy for me. They see some milk that they know I would take, they'll just get for me. Some vegan stuff, they'll just get for me. But initially, there was, I think I was just trying to make them understand. But I didn't had the thought I want to make them vegan or whatever. But I definitely wanted them to know what's happening, because first acceptance, first knowing what's happening, and if you care enough, you would do it. That's it. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Navedthra. Navedthra, thanks for joining us today. It's really amazing to see that always together we can create, an impact on our Earth. We're sure that our listeners will definitely become aware of the ways that you mentioned that can help out the eco-friendly procedures to preserve our environment. So thank you for coming on to the show. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add, thank you, Navedthra. And I mean, I'll be honest, I do consume meat, but I think after you said this, like, I will definitely reduce, my meat consumption. So that was impactful. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for calling me onto the show. But yeah, I hope we all learn and understand that we can't sustain if our environment is gone. We really can't. Like, we can't live here. So I think, at least for that, I think we just need to take up that, especially like youngsters, like people like us. We need to, put our parents away, but us, we all need to take up the responsibility and do whatever that we can to sustain so that we can live a better world.
Yeah, definitely. So, thank you actually for taking the time to come on our podcast and all. And I'm just gonna quickly talk to the audience, and then I'm going to we're just gonna do like a small game. uh, but yeah, thank you to the audience who are always supportive of our Telugu Saga podcast. Um, and hope to be back with another great episode. So thank you all.